For the January 6th committee, a crucial question.
What exactly was our commander-in-chief doing during the hours of violence? Today, we address precisely that issue. And I now recognize the gentlewoman from Virginia.
From the time when President Trump ended his speech until the moment when he finally told the mob to go home, a span of 187 minutes, more than 3 hours. What you will learn is that
So Elaine, Lori, and I decided to lead the 187-minute hearing because we were both veterans on the committee. Elaine and I had taken the oath twice as a member of Congress and as a military member. And I think it was important for us to just hopefully express that outrage of how there are people that are willing to die for this country, and this guy couldn't even follow through on his basic oath to defend the constitutional branch of government.
Here's what will be clear by the end of this hearing. President Trump did not fail to act during the 187 minutes between leaving the ellipse and telling the mob to go home. He chose not to act.
The 187 minutes began as Trump left the stage and demanded that his motorcade drive him to the Capitol.
the president was still adamant to go to the Capitol, but his Secret Service detail was equally determined to not let him go. That led to a heated argument with the detail that delayed the departure of the motorcade to the White House.
Later, Cassidy Hutchinson heard reports about what happened.
So once the president had gotten into the vehicle with Bobby Engel, who is the head of Mr. Trump's security detail, he thought that they were going up to the Capitol, and when Bobby had relayed to him, "We're not, we don't have the assets to do it, it's not secure, we're going back to the West Wing," the president had a very angry response to that. The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now." To which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing."
He saw this crowd and he wanted to participate in some manner, whether it was leading the crowd or being part of the crowd or going, but certainly there was a level of frustration when he was told that he couldn't, that he was so focused on disrupting the joint session that day, he himself wanted to go.
When he couldn't go to the Capitol with the crowd, the president returned to the White House.
In some ways, the most telling portrayal of the president and his intent here is not what happens in the lead up to the attack on the Capitol, but what he does or doesn't do when it's taking place and in the aftermath of it.
President Trump went to the private dining room off the Oval Office. Witnesses told us that on January 6th, President Trump sat in his usual spot, at the head of the table, facing a television hanging on the wall. We know from the employee that the TV was tuned to Fox News all afternoon.
This is real. It's happening on Capitol Hill. We're trying to get some ground truth to exactly what's happening on the ground. To your point broadly,
he's in that little private dining room off the Oval Office. The TV is on. He's watching it take place. He knows what's happening. He understands what's happening. And his instinct is to, in effect, egg them on.
At 1:49, he tweeted out a link to the recording of his ellipse speech. This was the same speech in which he knowingly sent an armed mob to the Capitol. But President Trump made no comment about the lawlessness and the violence.
They are locking down the Capitol complex. No one is allowed in or out. Now, just a few moments.
The White House is just in shock. Many of them testified that they tried to get the president to take some sort of action to get the crowd to leave the Capitol.
White House counsel Pat Cipollone was one of Trump's advisors urging action.
I think I was pretty clear there needed to be an immediate and forceful response statement, public statement that people need to leave the Capitol now.
Did you continue, Mr. Cipollone, to push for a stronger statement?
Yes.
Were you joined in that effort by Ivanka Trump?
Yes.
Eric Hershey?
Yes.
By Mark Meadows?
Yes.
These aides and lawyers rushing into this private dining room, trying to get him to do something, trying to get him to speak out, trying to get him to stop the attack. and he won't do it.
He was enjoying this. These were his people. He loved them. And they were accomplishing something that he wanted to have accomplished, which was to delay and derail the certification of this election.
The committee saw it as evidence of what the president had been planning all along.
It says volumes about the president's intent. It suggests that the president is reluctant to call this off, that he sees his people fighting as a potentially positive thing. His own daughter is encouraging him to more forcefully stop the violence. And the fact that he does not, 4 hours after being aware of the violence, tell people to go home, really, really powerful evidence of his intent.
Now, look at what you've got now. You have protesters inside the Capitol building. The other big question is, where is the vice president?
The Secret Service rushed Pence away from the crowd.
If we lose any more time, we may lose the ability to leave.
With the Capitol overrun, the president fired off a tweet about his vice president.
Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country
and our Constitution. Is that true? I'm hearing reports that Pence caved. I'm telling you, if Pence caved, we're gonna drag mother through the streets.
As that tweet goes out at 2:24 p.m., his supporters see it, and there is an intense surge in the rioting. That tweet threw fuel on the fire.
Mike Pence has betrayed the United States of America!
The mob goes down there to the Capitol and chants, "Hang Mike Pence." And they actually build a gallows out in front of the Capitol. I mean, they meant it.
I can only imagine what Mike Pence must have thought when the full weight of the betrayal must have become so palpable for him, when he must have thought, it has come to this, that the one moment as vice president where I have stood on principle, I am being treated as the enemy, and they've come for me, and the president is attacking me. Not only is he not calling to say, "Are you okay?" He's egging it on. It is an amazing moment.
At the White House, Pat Cipollone was growing concerned for the vice president.
I remember Pat saying, "Mark, we need to do something more. They're literally calling for the vice president to be effing hung." And Mark had responded something to the effect of, "You heard him, Pat. He thinks Mike deserves it. He doesn't think they're doing anything wrong."
When the crowd is chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," he says, well, maybe our people have it right. Maybe Mike deserves it.
Donald Trump embraced the whirlwind on January 6th. He, in his speech at the Ellipse, in his tweets afterwards, in his indifference to the pleas of his family and advisors to do something more, to call them up, he seemed to revel in the chaos and violence that he himself had unleashed.
Copy. Clear, we're coming out now. All right, make a way.
We had the footage from inside the Capitol where Pence is rushed down the steps by his Secret Service detail along with his family.
To his credit, he did not take the Secret Service advice and leave the Capitol. He stayed, he provided direction to what was going on. He offered the stability at the moment that the president refused to do.
Finally, police began to regain control of the Capitol.
The Capitol grounds have been secure. Police had to use tear gas. Troops are deployed around the Capitol perimeter to prevent any more violence of what we saw this afternoon.
Good, Chase? When you're ready, sir.
President Trump finally gave in and went out to the Rose Garden at 4:03.
You tell me when.
When you're ready, sir.
For 187 minutes, he was sitting there watching the news, wondering if his people would win, until he saw that law enforcement had turned the tide. And only when law enforcement turned the tide did he then begrudgingly try to cover his backside and look like he was against the violence in the first place.
Who's behind me?
He's gone around. We're all clear now.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had a election, let me say. I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have...
When he ultimately issues his video, this isn't a guy who is apologetic for any of this. This isn't somebody who says, oops, this has gone awry, this has gone too far. Quite the opposite.
So go home. We love you. You're very special. I know how you feel. But go home and go home in peace.
We love you. You are special. These are people that have assaulted the U.S. Capitol building, have attacked Capitol police officers, are trying to stop the proceedings of Congress. And Trump does tell them to go home, but then immediately adds, we love you. You are special.
Special Counsel Jack Smith has cited those 187 minutes in his conspiracy case against Trump.
The defendant's knowing and corrupt intent is clear from his actions and purposeful inaction during the attack on the Capitol.
The prosecutor's going to show that as he got the result he hoped for, a big scene, a riot, and then of course he wasn't going to do anything to stop the riot because he had use to make of it. And that use was to use the people's fear to try to get them to do what he wanted.